Tear downs are altering Newton permanently by destroying smaller, possibly entry-level houses. How would you deal with this situation?
So I think our city's updated zoning ordinance must disincentivize tear downs. We've seen it across the city, what it's like when we see sort of a smaller, more modest home be replaced by sort of this McMansion, this mega mansion that are both, ridiculously expensive and are pricing out so many Newton residents who, like my family, were able to 20 years ago afford a really small single family home and now would never be able to do that. But I think also the environmental impacts of completely tearing down a home and building something completely new that's much bigger, takes up, a lot more natural resources, is a massive problem. And so I think there are ways in our rewriting of the zoning ordinance that we can disincentivize the tearing down of homes. Making it more difficult to do that is really important. But I think we also need to broaden the conversation, because if our zoning ordinance, only stops at disincentivizing teardowns, it won't have provided, the level of affordability that we need in Newton in order to combat our housing shortage, because we're in a housing crisis. We have to build more housing, and specifically housing that's affordable. And so disincentivizing teardowns and incentivizing the creation of modest homes is important, but it's not the whole piece of, not the whole puzzle, it's a piece. And so I think, using all of the tools in the toolbox, focusing on, mixed use development, multifamily near our transit stops, near our village centers, is really important as well.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, we are considering some fairly broad sweeping changes to the zoning code here in Newton. But I think that what we need to do is we need to take a look at our zoning in two significant pieces. Number one, there are some things that we know that are broken, that aren't working for us anymore. And then there's some broader generalized, massive changes, like I mentioned, the elimination of single family zoning, which I do not support. However, tear downs is a known problem here in Newton. Therefore, I agree with Maddie in the sense that tear downs are a significant problem, but I still believe that there's a much simpler solution to solving the tear down, and by extension, the problem that we have with the construction of what people call McMansions, right? These huge buildings that go almost to the edge of the property line that kind of are also contributing to some of the denigration of our neighborhoods. But in terms of specifically, focused on tear downs, we could literally simply change the FAR, or the floor area ratio, that we have in our current zoning code to disincentivize people from creating tear downs and then building too close to the property lines in our city. So I think there are definitely multiple ways we can get at reducing the incentives for tear downs.
How would you enhance the vitality of Newton's village centers?
So I think there are a couple of different things we need to consider. First off, Newton has 13 village centers. Each one of them would deserve their own analysis because they are significantly different. You can't compare a Newtonville to a Newton Corner to a Newton Center to a Woburn. They're all significantly different. It would merit their own investigation. But I do believe that some of the more important attributes that they would all share is quite frankly, related to what we've been going through in terms of this pandemic. We have seen so many small businesses, in particular restaurants, being put out of business. And I think Newton has a really important role to play here. And from a city council perspective, I would like to work directly with our economic development committee or our commission, because we need to be able to help these businesses not only understand how to rebound, but in the future, how to become more resilient to the impact of things like, hopefully we'll never go through this again, things like these types of pandemics. How can we help them not only, cover their rent, if you will, on a monthly basis, but become more resilient long-term, that I think will help our city centers immensely.
So I think, investing in our city's commercial districts and in our local businesses is more important now than ever. And I think specifically, from the perspective of Ward 1, we have 2 commercial districts in Newton Corner and Onantum who have been historically neglected from city investment and who are, facing the consequences of that when we see empty storefronts and just uninviting village centers that are not places of community and congregation. And I think, you know, the recovery from COVID-19 is a major part of that. It's what we need to focus on right now. Our Economic Development Commission has released a 30-plus point plan on things we can do, small and large, to help our businesses recover. And I would see to the swift implementation of all of those things. I think, you know, there are solutions we can take that are both financial and also things that don't cost us anything to help businesses just get back to where they were and to make their future even brighter than it used to be. I think what's also really important, though, is investing in transportation in our village centers. You know, in Nonantum, we don't have a transportation line that will get you into a hub like Cambridge or Boston. And you have to build the transportation for the environment you want to create. You have to attract that investment. And so if our city dollars are going into commercial districts in Newton Corner and Nonantum, those dollars will follow and will create, you know, vibrant village centers that are accessible, you know, by walking, by bike, by public transportation. And so what I think is really important that we think of, you know, not just helping the businesses themselves, but helping the community around that thrive so that they're places you want to be and that you want to congregate and meet your neighbors in.